Good morning and welcome back to the Doordarshan presentation of the Tokyo Olympics Day 7 live action. I'm your host Arjun, and before we move on to the plates with detailed information about what happened yesterday, let's have a look at what's going to happen today. And there's plenty of action in boxing, especially in the men's Satish Kumar super heavyweight, which is the round of 16, and he is qualified for the quarterfinals, where he'll take on Bagdori Jalov in the Uzbekistan on Sunday itself. And then in women's action in boxing, we have Lavlina Borgain in the welterweight category, and her bout will take place at 8:48 a.m. which is roughly 2.5 hours from now. And then we have in the lightweight, which is 57 to 60 kilogram weight category, Simranjit Kaur Bath, who will take on her opponent from Thailand. So that's your action in boxing. Then we have the major event, which is in badminton. In women's singles, PV Sindhu, who has won her round of 16, she has now moved on to the quarterfinals and will take on Akane Yamaguchi. That's at 12 o'clock in the afternoon onwards. And PV Sindhu had earlier defeated Mia in straight games, 21-15, 21-13. In hockey, which is a team sport, India defeated Argentina 3-1, and this is after defeating Spain 3-0, and Australia, where they lost by 1-7, and they won against New Zealand 3-2. So that has been some of the action that took place earlier. There'll be action taking place right now as well, along with women's shooting at 5:30 in the morning. It's up to you now, Sakshi, because there's plenty of action, plenty of medal prospects. We were earlier talking about Mirabai Chanu's silver medal earlier on day one, and then we thought that the medal hopes had dried up, but that's not the case. There appears to be many medal prospects from today onwards.
Yes, Arjun, and a very warm good morning to you, and thank you so much for finally welcoming me also over here, and a very well summed up wrap up of the day of what is lined up. Let's also just have a look at how the day went yesterday. It was a very good day for India, because in three sports, we look at hockey, we look at badminton, and we look at shooting. We obviously won our respective rounds and moved ahead. Specifically, as Arjun just mentioned, in hockey, we had Indian men defeating Argentina 3-1 with a thumping victory coming our way over there. Not just that, when we look at shooting, of course, Manu Bakar is going to be a major contender today, because yesterday in the 25-meter women's pistol qualification, in the precision round, she finished in the 5th spot, which puts her in a very strong spot today when she comes to play in the rapid to actually move on further ahead. Not just that, in badminton also, as Arjun just mentioned, PV Sindhu yesterday beat her opponent from Denmark in straight games, and of course moved on into the quarterfinals. Along with that, some other updates from yesterday, of course, would be the most disappointing one, I believe, and of course a shocking one, which was MC Maricom bowing out of Olympics in boxing in flyweight category of 48 to 51 kg category, being defeated by Ingrid Valencia from Colombia 2-3. That is obviously not what none of us expected to happen, but as we say, it's a game, and at the end of the day, one wins and one loses. And what was even more beautiful was how gracious was she, Arjun, in her defeat. And that is what went around on social media also yesterday, that despite the fact that MC Maricom bowed out, let's not forget that the first round she had to suffer a huge loss, but then she recovered from there and went on to win the next rounds. But despite that, the difference was so huge that she obviously couldn't move on further. But social media was all just full of praise for MC Maricom for the sportsman spirit, or should we say the sportswoman spirit, that she showed yesterday.
Let's not forget that MC Maricom is 38 years old, and in the bout against Ingrid Valencia again from Colombia, if you look at the score sheet of the 5 scorers at ringside, they were all awarding 9 and 10. So across the 3 rounds, it was a very closely fought contest between the two pugilists in the 51 kilogram weight category. This was a round of 16 bout where Valencia won by 3-2 and has now moved on to the quarterfinals. So that has been the major disappointment. But in all practicality, even by the analysts, when before the bouts actually began, and there was an analysis of the women fighters who have landed in Tokyo representing India, there was always some lack of optimism about her chances because of her age. And the 51 kilogram weight category is a lighter weight category. And what we are seeing now in the medal prospects are in the heavier weight category by the women boxers Lavlina Bourgain in the welterweight category, which is 64 to 69 kilogram weight category, and then we have Simranjit Kaur in the lightweight category, 57 to 60 kilogram weight category. And then we have in the men's, which is a super heavyweight, that's a plus 91 kilogram weight category, and already Satish Kumar has moved into the quarterfinals. That bout will take place on Sunday. So moving on from boxing, Sakshi, let's have a look at archery,
Correct.
which is another precision sport and where we had some degree of success. And Atanu Das in the round of 32 has now moved into the round of 16 in the individual men's category. And then we have Deepika Kumari today taking on Ksenia Perova, also in the individual round of 32 for women. So as far as precision sports are concerned, even though our men and women have disappointed our viewers in the sport of shooting, they have not in the event of archery.
Of course, yes, and from our archers, we're going to expect a lot because as we just saw, of course, Deepika Kumari is going to be having a game today where she's up against Ksenia Perova of the Russian Olympic Committee. But let's also not forget that on a lighter note, Deepika Kumari and Atanu Das are husband and wife, and they were looking forward, of course, Arjun, to playing a game together. But thanks to how things have panned out, obviously they cannot have a game together now. Moving on from there, also there are some major events apart from this also, Arjun, that are getting lined today, in which a very big name comes out from the world of athletics, where we have Duty Chand in the women's 100-meter round 1 heats today, and this is going to be happening at 8:45. That's a name, of course, that a lot of Indians would relate with and at the same time remember also, because for all that has happened and that has been given to the sport, Duty Chand is a very, very important name. Not just that, from the Indian angle in athletics, we have Avanash Sable in the men's 3000 meter steeplechase round 1 heat 2. The game, of course, starting at 6:17 a.m. IST. MP Jabir in men's 400 meter hurdles round 1 heat 2, heat 5, my apologies, which starts at 8:30 a.m. around the Indian Standard Time. And after that, we have the mixed 4x400 meter relay race round 1 heat 2, which is in the evening around 4:40 p.m. Indian Standard Time. So athletics also starting up. If you were to just look at athletics, Arjun, and give a slight insight to our viewers, how do you actually look at Indians performing in athletics in the sport and Olympics this year, especially Duty Chand being one of the most prominent names out there?
Well, we'll first have to assess, Sakshi, about what the national record that he has set in the 100 meters and then compare it to the international standards of the 100 meters and then make a comparison. So whether Duty Chand has a opportunity to win a medal or not would be difficult to assess. Same for Neeraj Chopra as well when it comes to the javelin. He has a best of 88 meters, and if you look at the competition right now, most of them are in the plus 95 meters category. The world record is 98 meters. So it will be a difficult ask in the field of athletics and track and field when it comes to the Indian participation. But there are plenty of other sports where we have a strong chance. We have sailing taking place today at roughly about the same time that we have boxing, which is you have the 49er men's race 7, 8 and 9. You have Ganapati and Varun Thakkar who would be taking part. Then you have the laser radial women's race 9 and 10 where Netra Kumanan will be taking part. Then you have the laser men race 9 and 10, Vishnu Sarvanan, who will be taking part as well. And let's not forget that there is also the glamorous sport of golf where Anirban Lahiri has been doing quite well along with Mane. And this is on day one, that was yesterday. They tied 8 with 4 under 67 and today is round 2. But let me tell you, the most difficult ask as far as the team sport is concerned is when the women's hockey team takes on Ireland today at 8:15 in the morning, which is not very far away. And after their 3 successive defeats earlier on, one can only hope that they can salvage at least a draw or a tie in this match against Ireland.
Yes, of course, and how the women's hockey team has been performing, it's completely different and contrasting in nature to how the men's hockey team has been performing, because where we have had a very good victory by India against Argentina in the men's hockey, over here we notice in the Olympics so far when we're looking at the women's hockey, it's not been at all a good run for the Indian women. And definitely the least they would be looking out right now is to just have a game victory, or probably, as Arjun said, be able to draw the game to just salvage their pride and also keep their morale slightly up, though their chances in the competition almost over, but still a victory would do no harm to their morale and motivation, and of course may help them move forward from here also. And since we were just talking about golf also, just to give a quick update to our viewers about golf, Arjun, in the golf, of course, when we were talking about Anirban Lahiri, he had played his first round of golf yesterday in individual stroke, where he was tied 8th with 4 under 67, while if we look at the other golfer who was there in with the game yesterday along with Anirban Lahiri, it was of course Udayan Mane, who was 60th with 5 over 76 in the first round of golf. So these are two golfers who shall be starting, or rather have already started their journey on the day 7 of Olympics today, because the round 2 of golf has already started. And another news that I could give you today about what happened yesterday would be, of course, how the Indian swimmers also performed, because when we look at swimming over here, Sarjan Prakash failed to qualify for the 100-meter butterfly semi-finals yesterday, which of course ended his complete standing in the competition. We cannot expect anything further from Sarjan Prakash, but the fact that he was able to reach or fight up for the semi-final spot is a commendable performance, or for calls for being applauded also, Arjun, because he overall finished 46 yesterday. But from the swimming angle, when we know that the sport has been very tough for India, where we have very stiff competition coming from the USA also, to be able to qualify and fight for the semi-final spot for the 100-meter butterfly in itself calls for an applaud for Sarjan Prakash.
Yes, the 100 meters butterfly itself is quite a difficult swimming event, and then you have competition not only from North America but also from Australia, which is known for producing world-class swimmers. So that's a sport where India is finding some difficulty. Just making a mark, qualifying itself is a major achievement. But if you look at the major event in the afternoon at 3 o'clock, it would be the men's hockey, because they've already qualified for the quarterfinals in that Pool A, yes, where they have won 3 out of the last 4 matches, and they take on Japan today at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So with the knowledge that they've already qualified, it should be a free-flowing game for the men's hockey, and plenty of entertainment, because the rules right now framed by the FIH are such that it encourages plenty of goal scoring when it comes to hockey, and that is a major entertainment source for spectators and viewers. Of course, there are no spectators at the Tokyo Olympics right now because of the COVID pandemic and the fears of it, but otherwise it's a free-flowing game and plenty of excitement and opportunity when it comes to scoring in hockey for men's.
Let's now also have a look at how the day pans out. Today we have equestrian coming up, individual eventing dressage, where we have team and individual day 1, in which we have Paud Mirza from India giving his representation. Well, there was equestrian, Arjun, that we were talking of, a sport that is relatively not that popular within the country. But let's not forget that these are also sports that call for recognition and also help in the establishment of athletes who represent the country on the international level. Just like the other day, we were talking about sailing and rowing, and how they are sports which of course require the attention, and how our sailors and rowers have been giving a very good performance. We have a lot of action lined up. In that action, we could also talk about one other event that we haven't talked about, or probably just mentioned. It would definitely be in fact, we've covered almost everything to just realize that. But Arjun, coming up is men's individual stroke play round 2 that we just talked about. Anirban Lahiri from India. It's going to be an important game for the Indians.
Well, he's tied 8th with 4 under 67, which means that he has required fewer shots for the course, which has a 67 as the standard score versus Udayan Mane's performance on day 1. So day 2 should be quite strong performance from Anirban Lahiri, who is doing very well internationally across all events. So one should expect a great deal, especially with golf, which is a relatively new introduction in the Olympic sporting events. We mentioned about Udayan Mani, who had given the score earlier. He's slightly behind, and I'm sure he would like to catch up. And more importantly for Anirban Lahiri, he knows that there is someone from India who is neck and neck competing with him, and that helps a great deal, especially in a sport like golf, where you're not only competing with yourself, but you're also competing with others in the lineup. And just want to go back to equestrian, because that's a unique sport. And you have the women's 25 meters pistol event qualification round going on right now. Manu Bhakar and Rahi Sanobat, let's hope that they qualify. They haven't done very well in the other pistol events. But coming back to equestrian, again, it is a man and animal. You have Faud, who is on horseback, trying to make an impression in that dressage event. So one certainly hopes that in these new sports, India does very well as well.
Yes, we'll talk about that more, Arjun, but let's also look at the other event coming up, which is archery, women's individual, round of 8 eliminations, where we have Deepika Kumari representing India against the Russian Olympic Committee, of which we have Ksenia Perova as her opponent out there. That's of course going to be a very important game for Deepika Kumari again today that we are looking at, because this is going to be the women's individual pre-quarter final matches. From here on, she obviously moves on to the quarters, and after that, if she moves further, she will be assured of a medal. And then we have the men's 3000 meter steeplechase and athletics, round 1 heat 2, where we have Avinash Mukund Sable from India. Indian Standard Time 6:17 a.m. when this heat will be taking place. And since we were talking about athletics also, and you did mention that a lot depends, if you were to analyze how the Indian athletes have performed, a lot depends upon their previous performances and how have they performed on the international level in comparison to the other countries and nations, which of course is a very important point to be mentioned over here. Duti Chand is not the only representation, as we just saw and we all know, but a lot of hopes would be resting upon Duti Chand.
Yes, and I mentioned earlier that the national record, and they can meet those specific timings, it would go a long way towards at least coming back home and saying, listen, I have done, this is my performance at the national, international level, and I have matched it at the Olympics as well. We saw that with Mirabai Chanu when she won the silver medal in weightlifting in the 49 kilogram weight category, and she was able to have a total lift of 202 kilograms to win the silver medal. So she maintained that performance. We also have the 4x400 meters relay mixed, which is the second heat in round 1, and that's at 8:22 a.m. We have Alex Antony, Sarthak Bhambri, Revati and Subha Venkatesan, who will take part in the 4x400 meters mixed relay event.
Yes, of course, those were the lineups from the world of athletics that you shall be seeing today. But beyond that, also a lot of other events that we shall be coming up with are on your screen right now. Athletics continues, the men's 400 meter hurdles, where we have heat 5 of the round 1, in which we have Madari Pallayalil Jabir from India representing India in the men's 400 meter hurdles, 8:27 a.m. Indian Standard Time coming up. These were the games from the world of athletics, and of course, if we were to look at other events also, they'll be shortly there on your screen, as you can see right now. Women's tournament that we've been discussing so far, Arjun, hockey, Pool A, India versus Ireland. Of course, this is not an important event if we consider an important game today from the Indian angle, if we consider in the Olympics journey so far for the Indian women, but it is very important, or could be an important one, for the motivation of the Indian women's hockey team, since they haven't had a good run so far. And then the good big game that comes up today is Indian men up against Japan in Pool A of hockey. And Arjun, this one's going to be looked out for, because over here, this one's going to play a very important role for Indian men today.
Yes, and that will take place at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it should be a free-flowing game, India versus Japan. India's already qualified for the quarterfinals. We're talking earlier about boxing, women's lightweight, 57 to 60 kilogram weight category, round of 16, which is the pre-quarterfinals. Simranjeet Kaur from India takes on the Thai opponent Sudapon Sesondi today in the women's lightweight boxing category. We also have more action in the second quarterfinals. Lavlina Borgain will take on her opponent from Chinese Taipei, Yen Chin Chen, in the women's welterweight category, which is 64 to 69 kilogram weight category at 8:48 a.m. And then we have sailing action as well in the men's skiff 49er, which is the 7th race on day 7, where you have Kela Panda and V. Thakkar who would be representing India.
Yes. And the next few events that remain of the day, we have women's one-person dingy from sailing, where laser radial race 9 will take place, in which Netra Kumaran from India represents us at 8:35 a.m. Indian Standard Time. Sailing coming up, and the performance of the sailors so far being pretty smooth. Men's one-person dingy from the world of sailing, laser race 9 also coming up. Vishnu Saravanan representing India at 11:05 a.m. Indian Standard Time that we are looking at. So that was the quick wrap-up, and the last event also, still one more to go, which is from the world of baddie, which is badminton women's singles quarter-final. PV Sindhu from India is going to be up against Japan's Ei Yamaguchi, and this is going to be the game to look out for, because PV Sindhu's run so far has been pretty smooth in terms of how the output has been. Of course, it's never going to be smooth for an athlete once they're out there, or for a shuttler once they're over there. But what's important to note is that she has had a stable, good form so far, and we hope that form continues, because today is going to be the day that will matter most for her and for millions of Indians out there also.